Alright, it's over. I did it. I got through all 6 movies in, oh, a little over 24 hours. I want to say maybe 29 hours, which is pretty good, all things considered. And yeah, I finished Star Wars Episode 6, uh, Return of the Jedi, and so just some final thoughts about this last film in particular. I mean, I thought it was a good conclusion to a story. Adjusting. I gotta say, I thought it was a good conclusion. Um, and it was, they had to end it on a high note, and they didn't disappoint. You got a land battle, a space battle, and then a lightsaber battle, uh, all going on at the same time, which could be a little disconnective, when you're trying to follow 3 things at the same time. But I thought they handled it really well. They matched it beat for beat. Giving it, so sort of all taking similar ups and downs, which was a good thing. So kind of kept in a certain rhythm, which I thought was one of the drawbacks in the prequel trilogy was, you kind of really had ups and downs. And they really weren't peaking at the same time, or you didn't hit like low points at the same time. It was really like, so the prequel was like disconnecting when you were bouncing between 3 or 4 different storylines, and they were on where one was at a peak, another other like 2 in a lower, and one with exposition. So it was good because you got like enough time between the 3 storylines that when they wove in and out, you kind of were able to remember what was going on, and it wasn't like they were spending too much time focusing on one story and not enough on another, on like everything else that was going on, which was good. And I mean, so and this movie definitely had, of the original trilogy, had I think the most going on with like plot wise, like multiple characters in multiple different locations. So there was a lot going on, but they were able to handle it in a way that was, and that like met or exceeded expectations in every situation. And again, like I said, with A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, it's like they had the goals set out, and they were able to meet those goals and be able to solve the problems, and still look to be able to solve the problems that were coming in like long term, and be able to completely wrap up the entire trilogy, and well, the entire series for that matter, really well. Um, let's see, and I mean, the characters at this point are all pretty well developed and are already established in a really good way. I mean, we see we see Luke being, like, he does have like those brief moments where you see him tempted with the dark side, but he overcomes it, and I think that's the biggest hurdle he has to overcome, and it comes in the last half hour, 45 minutes of the movie where he has that. So it's pretty much he's like sort of plateaued for most of the film, development wise, and I mean, he's already a strong character. You saw him develop in episodes 4 and 5, and then he sort of plateaued, and then he had one last little like hurdle at the end of this film. Which, I mean, it was good when they put it where it was. I mean, you got to see him struggle and deal with one last thing before before he becomes that he reaches like his final goal, which they held which is good because didn't they didn't throw it all in one film or 2 films. They kind of did stretch it out, so you get to see the last hurdle. And then with Leia and Han, I mean, you knew that they were both strong characters and strong leaders and coming in. And I mean, and this is a film where you see Han completely step away from the character he was when we first meet him, who was the greedy smuggler who didn't really care about anyone. Now he, is a leader and cares about people and is actually highly invested in the Rebel Alliance and their cause. And you see him try and deal with some with Jabba in the first, you know, little bit of the film. I mean, yeah, reminding characters that look where he was at the beginning, but you see him at the end, step up to where he's completely different than he was in the beginning. And I mean, Leia, you see her actually going and trying to save Han, which is pretty ballsy of her, like disguising herself as a bounty hunter, which I like. She definitely, and you see her dealing with situations as they come, and with the Ewoks and all, and being just still maintaining a strong leadership position. Both of, I mean, not just not I mean, maybe not see her so much leading as sharing the leadership. And you still see her like handling herself in a more diplomatic situation, as well as in a battle. I mean, even when she gets hurt, she still manages to handle things pretty well. She's not relegated to the damsel in distress. She'll a little bit relegated to the damsel in distress, but she still is able to participate in a battle and is able to be strong and be able to fight, which is something that they didn't drop. They didn't drop the ball with her on that one, which is what they did with Padme. They kind of pretty much the last film she was just strictly there to be the love interest, which was a really bad disconnect. It was really something that I don't like when they completely drop what they had attempted to establish in the first in Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones for Padme. So props for them for being able to keep that storyline strong. And then you see how that Lando is a good person and is reference to him being a leader and a pilot, which they were able to back up and give back up and see him actually leading and stepping up and having to take part in the alliance, which is good to it's always good when you actually get to see characters performing on the background that when they actually see them being leaders as opposed to just hearing all about it. And then in this plot, you get to see more remorse in Vader, which I think is it is timely, but it really didn't. It kind of did come out of left field considering where Vader's been in episodes 4 and 5. It came a little bit out of left field. I mean, you see him in the last hour of the film being starting to maybe question if she should follow the Emperor's orders and kill his own son, which I mean, they could have maybe introduced it a little bit sooner than in the 11th hour, but whatever, it worked. It moved the story along. You see him sort of doubting his allegiance, which given that in the time chronology he's been following the Emperor for 20 some years, 20 or 22, 23 years. I mean, so surprise. I mean, so pretty point and you see him actually fulfill the destiny that Qui-Gon thought he would fill. 30 some years before. It's funny when you look at timelines for these movies that Phantom Menace technically takes place 32 years before the events of New Hope, which means by the end of it, and that Return of the Jedi takes place 4 years after A New Hope, which means by the end of it, you think about it, that Anakin's only 45, 46, and Luke and Leia are only 22, 23 at the end of it. So you look at timeline. It's kind of weird. It's kind of just like, you have to think about, you have to remind yourself, oh yeah, these characters are early 20s by the, Luke and Leia are like early 20s by the end of it. So, it's which, it's kind of like, okay, different situations, but still at the same time, they're supposed to be these young characters, but, they still were well written, and the situations were well done, so props to writers, directors, actors for that. I mean, and visually, I'm obviously, prequel trilogy has the benefit of CGI, which is pretty damn obvious where the CGI is in the prequel trilogy. Whereas, I mean, with the original trilogy, there was only so much they could do with the timeline when they were actually producing these films in the 80s. So, I mean, so given where they were at the time, I thought it was, there. I mean, you could see a lot of like CGI, where there was like CGI and all, but at the same time, it was still props to them, still props for what they had at the time, in order to create these space battles and to create the lightsaber battles that were, that were, like, pretty, like, if you take in context of the time, it was pretty spectacular. I mean, I remember going to see like A New Hope when it was re-released, like 10 or 12 or, okay, a while ago when I was 8, I feel like 14 years ago or something, digitally remastered, and, when they updated everything with CGI that they had and stuff that they had at the time, and that looked really good, and, I mean, so props to them for pulling that out, and then, shoot. So yeah, I mean, this was it. This is got to see some of where my immediate reactions to the films, and I mean, I know I probably left out a fair amount of my commentary because as things were happening, I would have the realizations about characters or see something that just in the moment I thought about, that was stupid, or that was a dickwad move, mainly with Anakin, because, well, it's even in Phantom Menace, he had a couple of dickish moves. When he's supposed to be 10 years old, he was a annoying 10-year-old dickwad. Okay, I'm being mean. Stop it. Stop being mean. It's not nice. Not that I care. Like, if like, George Lucas or anyone associated watching this, well, again, I say this isn't everyone's opinions. It's just mine. So I guess I should probably say now that this commentary does not reflect the fan base as a whole. It is my opinion of immediately after watching these films, how I'm thinking about something, and I know that I've spent probably over the course of each of these commentaries, I spent, a good portion of it ranting about Anakin being annoying and the uselessness of Jar Jar Binks, but that was mainly because, especially in the prequel trilogy, the first one I was really annoyed by Jar Jar. Second, third one, I just couldn't get over how whiny Anakin was written. So, anyway, if you're watching this and you've watched the entire series of commentary that I've done on the Star Wars 6 films, thank you. And again, as always, you can leave comments down below in the comment box. I would love to see them, see what you thought about, see if you have anything you want to add to what I said, if you have any points you want me to know, if what you thought, reflections of the series, if you're a Star Wars fan like me, because, I mean, it's always good to find someone who's a Star Wars nerd like you, and then we can find each other and be weird and nerd out together, if that's what you want to do, if that's the kind of person that you are. No pressure, trust me. Anyway, so, again, thank you, and yeah, thank you, and hopefully, maybe at some point I'll do other commentary videos. who knows? I mean, I have Family Guy's It's Trap, which is which is their parody of Return of the Jedi. But if I was gonna do something like that, I would have to get Blue Harvest and something 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 Dark Side. But that's always an option of maybe at some point doing something in that vein, because who doesn't love Family Guy? And Family Guy doing Star Wars is, from what I've seen, was hysterical. From watching it is hysterical because it's Family Guy. So anyway, that's enough for me. It's a little past 11:30, and so it's been a good run. And 2 trilogies, 6 films. I don't know if they'll ever do a 3rd trilogy, but if they do, well, you can know what you would expect from me. Yeah, more videos. But anyway, that'll probably never happen, but still, it's been fun. Thank you, and good night.